Well, it's a pleasure to welcome Harry Thomas, the CTO and co-founder of Frenos. How's it going, man?
Oh, it's going well. Pleasure to be here. I mean, this is awesome.
This is a long-awaited episode, and
Yeah.
when we first met back when you were at Dragos, right? It must have been pretty
Y-
much bang on 3 years ago, like this month or next.
Yeah, 3 or 4 years ago when I was leading research and development over there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, there's some excellent founders that have come out of Dragos, especially those kind of 2018, 2019 joiners.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, Dan Gunter. I mean, I took over research and development after Dan Gunter left to go start. I think it's now called Insane Cyber.
Yeah, 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 yeah. We work really closely with Dan as well, and he's on to something good. So it's good to be speaking to you, doing your own thing as well.
Yeah.
But like you've got we'll get into it, but you've got like this really quite unique and interesting background that led to your journey into cyber and then OT in the first place. But just starting with like a high level of Frenos for people that may not have heard of you yet, being, I mean, what, out of stealth in the last few months. Like who are you guys? What's the kind of mission statement and the goal of the business?
Yeah. So I mean, Frenos, what we're calling ourselves is zero impact security assessment platform. What it really is, it take think about like how much data we have now in OT cybersecurity that wasn't there before. With the progression of Clarity, Nozomi, Drago, Security Matters, now Forescout. I used to work over there, but now there's all this data that we have people coming to us asking questions like, "What do I do now?" Right? And what we found with Frenos is we can help with that decision making and that resource prioritization by accumulating all this data between firewall configurations straight through all your asset vulnerability information and really help prioritize what you can do today to better deter the adversaries tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. And because the OT security landscape is still small, like it's still a niche area, but there's it's getting bigger. Like there are more firms kind of springing up, both in well, Europe, Israel, and the States. So what are you actually doing like differently? Like what is your core differentiator from the the big boy OT security firms like the Dragoses, and then the smaller ones that are popping up fairly frequently?
Yeah, so the biggest differentiator is we're able to assess security at scale. So think about how right now most people have to hire penetration testers. They have Rapid7 or something like that. They're trying to do vulnerability scans on devices that can actually be scanned, right? But the problem is you have only so much time, you have only so many resources. And generally, when you're bringing in these penetration testers, everything's limited, right? You're
Mm,
always doing an assessment on a substation that isn't even live yet, or you're trying to do an assessment on a lab network that's replicated, or you're trying to replicate your prod network. Well, we're able to do that entirely throughout your prod network, right? No impact, zero impact to production. Everything is done offline. We have what we're calling Syra, our reasoning agent, simulated adversarial intelligence reasoning agent, where it's just a combination of machine learning, large language models, and a bunch of other things that build up the scaffolding that allow us to essentially have an adversary inside a digital twin replica of your environment because there's nothing more permanent than a temporary firewall rule. And firewalls don't lie on what's allowed between network to network connectivity, thus as the asset connectivity. So in this digital twin, we can actually plop an adversary inside and see what it can do. What are the most efficient pathways to go and disrupt your business operations? What vulnerabilities are allowed? Which TTPs, techniques, tactics, and procedures are allowed as well? Which is kind of it's it's like a revelation, right?
Mm.
Because we all know there are open windows and unlocked doors within critical infrastructure. And when I mean critical infrastructure, I mean all 16 sectors that we define or that CISA defines as critical infrastructure, including banking, healthcare, and all that stuff. There's all these open doors, open windows, unlocked doors, and we all know it's bad, but we don't know how bad it is. And when you start combining these data lakes, these data sets into Frenos, we can actually show you how bad it is and how bad it could be, because this is all hypothetical.
Mm. And is there, because I'm in a lot of security, like kind of new security categories altogether, there's always this element of educating the customer or the prospect on what the problem even is, and getting them to understand that it's even a thing. Is that a case with you guys, or are you really kind of finding that in prospect conversations, you are the solution to a problem that they're already aware that they have in their OT environments?
We're generally a solution to a problem that's already there. The moment we start showcasing our platform, start showing a demo, they start realizing what can be solved today and really
Mm.
work on that low hanging fruit that we all know, what is it? SANS top 5 security controls. One of them is a defensible architecture, which could include segmentation, but generally is a lot harder to do segmentation without having downtime. I mean, we're able to go in and say, hey, firewall rules or certain connectivity between networks should be limited. What we're trying to do is shift left of boom, right? Be more proactive and also move all of those defensive resources that are generally next to your crown jewels in your substations, in your oil refineries, next to your DCS network, and bring them up closer to where the intrusion could be so that you can detect your adversaries, those threats, before they even get to those crown jewels.
Yeah. Yeah, awesome. And tell me about the founding story, because I'm assuming you and Brian met from your time at Security Matters, then Forescout.
Yeah.
Yeah, like talk me through how it all came together and how the three of you guys ended up thinking, let's do it.
Yeah, so it's actually quite interesting story. So Brian has his own story based off of when he used to work at San Diego Gas and Electric. And then I
Mhm.
have mine where I was working at Dragos and people kept asking after implementing the Dragos platform, what do I do now? Like we can detect threats, but I don't know how to plan out my cybersecurity strategy. I don't know what to do next. And that's always a hard question. Even when I used to be consulting, right? You go and drop a report and they're like, cool, I have this report. Now what do I do? What do I have to work on today?
Mhm.
And I called up Brian. So this has been in the works. I mean, you should see my GitHub. I have like so many repositories of trying to build this because quite frankly, this couldn't be built until generative AI came out. I'm not saying that we're just a generative AI platform, but generative AI really helps us translate what machines understand to what humans understand. And that's how we're utilizing large language models within our platform. So I called up Brian. So actually, ChatGPT started becoming a thing late 2022. Called up Brian after building a prototype in early 2023. And I'm like, hey, man, I have this idea. I think it can be done now. We worked on it over the course of a little bit. We joined the UNC Charlotte launch program, which helps entrepreneurs with user discovery, ensure we're working on the right thing, ensure that we're building something that people want. Shout out Y Combinator. But like, it's really hard because you think like we all have amazing ideas day in and day out. It's just which one of those amazing ideas other people have as well, right? Other people's problems. And after the UNC Charlotte launch program, built another prototype. And we actually went to S4 earlier this year in 2024 and showcased our vision, our prototype to a room full of investors and Fortune 500 security architects. And we're like, this is what we think you guys need, you tell us. And it was well received. I mean, from there, we probably in about 3-4 months GA'd our platform late July, and now we're already strolling through pilots and have acquired some customers.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. And with because OT buyers in general are reluctant to secure their products anyway, right? And anything that gets in the way of their continuous run of their assets and their environments is always making them nervous. How receptive are they when you're then not just talking about OT security, but you're also bringing generative AI into the mix as well? Is that kind of a pushback that you get at all, or is that generally well received already by the buyers themselves?
It's generally well received only because our platform is entirely on premise. Even the large
Mm,
language model is on prem. So you don't have to worry about us building a wrapper and like sending it to ChatGPT or anything like that. Like everything is local. You could even rip out the internet connectivity to our cloud where we push automatic updates and such
mm,
and completely use this in an air gap environment. And that's what we're seeing actually some customers within like nuclear or the government wanting to use our platform because they can just install it. They can even install it on the laptop. Now that's something that's completely different than what we're used to with OT cybersecurity because we're used to the security monitoring vendors needing to put a sensor in all sorts of substations, downtime. You need to call the union. You need to pay $100,000 for a union worker to roll out a truck, right? We don't need to do that. We are anywhere you need us to be, whether it's on a laptop, in a DMZ, all we need is the data. And we actually have an offline and online version of our platform. Offline meaning put it on a laptop and upload your configuration files, upload your CSVs, JSON output from your tools, and it works just like that. Or we can even online connect via APIs to the central management consoles, like your Panorama, your Dragos console manager, stuff like that, where we can
mm.
actually pull that data real time and continuously perform our simulations, attack path simulations, and such.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. And life as a first time founder. What's that like? How's and I know you're still in the kind of very scrappy pre-seed stage where like you
Yeah.
don't have teams of people yet, but there's got to still be the challenges and the adjustment of I'm now doing this for my own company rather than being an employee somewhere else. So
Yeah.
how's that adjustment been?
That adjustment, it was rocky in the beginning because going from manager, individual contributor to running a company is obviously different. I mean, that's vastly different. But I was talking to a good friend of mine, Dario, this morning, where he asked the same question, like, how's life as a founder? And it has its ups and downs, but as long as you don't ride the roller coaster and you stay pretty even keel, it's not that bad. What I found was we have a small team. We have a team about 14 or 16 people, and everybody has a skill set. And what you have to do as a founder is supplement what they lack. So we have some people that are just straight coders. They are engineers through and through, and you have to help them with direction. We have other phone calls that, we're talking about finances. I'm working with my co-founders talking about sales pipeline and really understanding everything. What I
Mhm.
think is the biggest hurdle for most founders in the beginning is understanding business, especially for me as a technical person, right? Really understanding, can I read a P&L? And going through that and going through the sales motions, understanding what revenue looks like, understand how we recognize revenue, things like that, where traditionally, historically in the past, I wasn't in charge of. I
Mhm.
had meetings about it, but I didn't have too much to input. Now I have a direction where I think the platform's going. I'm working collaboratively with everybody, trying to ensure that we're going in the same direction. We're all working for the mission. That's probably the biggest difference as a first-time founder.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, like, I Joe doesn't do much of it. He manages to avoid pretty much all of the bullshit stuff, and for some reason it always falls on my shoulders. But it's like calling the bank because you have an issue, and then you finish up and you're like, I've just lost 2 hours of my time to like unlock an account. And it's
Yep.
those things that, especially whilst like you're still small, it's just the stuff that is absolutely essential, but it just takes up so much time and you've not had to do it before.
Yeah, like finding an office. I know you guys just
Mm,
opened a new office. Like finding an office and like talking with the team, going like, is this where we want to be? Is this what we want to do? We
mm,
just opened up our virtual office and such, and had to go through that kind of rigmarole.
yeah, it's the pain, but soon you'll be at a stage where you've got someone to offload it all to. But you've got some major people involved. I know some of them aren't public yet, but like
Yeah,
some of the people that I know are involved, they're high caliber, man. You've got some really strong backing, and obviously publicly Rob Lee's involved as well, CEO and
yeah,
founder of Dragos. And Rob obviously, well, I guess not obviously, but he doesn't put his name to many companies, despite how high profile and I'm sure how many offers he gets. He's
yeah.
involved with surprisingly few. So what does that actually mean, and what's the benefit of that as early as you are now?
Well, for one, Rob does get pitched a lot, and watching the webinar from the other day between Rob and Brian, what he said there was you have to invest in the team and invest in authentic people. And he feels that the team that we have here at Frenos, how authentic we are about protecting critical infrastructure really matters. And, quite frankly, at the beginning, we showed him the product and he gave his opinions and he's like, I think you guys are onto something. This is where I would try to move your messaging, move your mission towards, right?
Mhm.
We heard that, we talked internally, and we recognized it was a good idea. Hence why we're now a zero impact security assessment platform rather than a breach and attack simulation or anything or attack surface management, right? Um, we really recognize his expertise. I mean, quite frankly, he has a unicorn. He's the CEO of a unicorn, so he's doing something right, and it's
Mhm.
really his involvement is really advice, right? And opinions. Like, this is what I would do in your shoes. Take it or leave it. But quite frankly, I've been there. And you have to, it's almost like when you bring on these advisors, what you're trying to do is reduce the lumps you're going to take down the line, right?
Mhm.
And since he is been through it so recently, quote unquote, it's actually pretty beneficial than bringing on an advisor that is like a professional advisor, right? Where they're not running a company right now. They ran a company probably about 10 years ago. Fundraising process was completely different. So bringing on Rob, one, is a vote of confidence on our mission, what we're trying to do. But two, it's like bringing on a brother, right? I mean, I worked with him for so
Mhm.
long over at Dragos, and we're pretty intertwined in the community that's like listening to your older brother and be like, okay, I am here and I want to go there. How do I do that?
Mm. Will Frenos get their own brewery though?
It's not the brewery, it's at Dragos, it's the cold brew. The cold brew
Mm.
there is like rocket fuel, and I'm going to Disc, and man, I cannot wait to drink that cold brew.
You're walking back out with the cold brew machine under your jacket.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Take that keg with me.
Yeah, and because Dragos came through DataTribe's Foundry model,
Yeah.
and you announced it was this week or last week a date of recording this, but you've managed to get accepted into 2024 Cybersecurity Challenge competition, which is awesome.
Right.
Some fantastic firms have been finalists and gone on to do great things. But like, what's the process with that?
The process, I think our process was a little different. So we were talking to DataTribe. We've been talking to DataTribe for, gosh, almost 6, 8 months now. Really trying to understand what they're looking for, what other VCs are looking for, and such. And all of a sudden, we received an email one day saying, "Hey, we want you to be a DataTribe finalist." And we're like, "We don't know what this means." Um, so we're like, "Of course, yeah, sure, let's do it. I mean, it's not bad. It's not going to hurt us." And what we realize is this is like a networking event almost, right? We're one of 5 companies pitching our own company to a room full of CISOs, investors, whoever. And it's just another way for us to get feedback, right? We
Mm,
grow with feedback, we listen to feedback. Yeah, we don't accept all feedback, but this is really giving us a chance to get out there in the spotlight, really showcase Frenos, showcase our progress and our traction, and get honest feedback from the community to let us know whether we're on the right track or not.
yeah, yeah, awesome. And your background, kind of prior to Frenos, is pretty unique as well. Because you and it'll probably be the title of this episode, along the lines of from nursing to OT security founder. But talk about your entrance into security in the first place and what led Harry from like nursing in a hospital to now being the co-founder of an OT security vendor.
Oh man. So coming out of high school, I always wanted to be in the medical field, right? I had 2 options, medical field or computers. I chose medical field because I used to watch House a lot, House MD. And I was like, I want to do something along the lines of that. I love medicine. So I was in nursing, started working professionally, and then realized I remember the day. So I things in the medical field happen in threes, right? It doesn't matter what it is. People falling, people being injured, or even passing away. I was on my 3rd patient that day that passed away. And writing the report, working with everybody, trying to make sure that the family's being called. And I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, there has to be something different. I got into this field to help people, and this doesn't feel like helping people because I'm working with a lot of long-term care individuals that just need palliative care. They need to just be comforted. So I literally went home that night and opened up my laptop. I'm like, I need to find something different.
Mm.
So I started looking at computers, started looking at internships. There was a DoD contractor near me where I lived in New Hampshire that was hiring an IT support intern. I'm like, done. I can do that. Re-enrolled back into school, got the internship, and then I met my uh, mentor and now friend Dennis Murphy over at Elbit Systems of America, where I remember going into his office, dropping off his new laptop, and I saw that he was like the director of cybersecurity or something along the lines of that for the business. And I'm like, "What's cybersecurity?" And he goes, "All right, schedule a meeting, come back, and I'll tell you." I was worried. I didn't know how to schedule a meeting. Like you have to like I was in the medical field. We don't schedule meetings. We just go from room to room and talk to patients. So after I figured out how to schedule a meeting in Outlook, showed up, he was like, "All right, do you know Metasploit? Do you know how to smash a stack?" I'm like, "I know nothing." He's like, "All right, pretty green. I have an intern cybersecurity position open. If you want to take it." I'm like, "I'll take it." Showed me how to smash a stack, right? Buffer overflows and whatnot. From there on, I really understood that this could be my way of helping people, right?
Mm.
From a technology perspective. And it just so happened that Dennis went on to work at Security Matters, brought me there. And then from there, I just flourished, right? I went to Dragos, I worked at AWS Security, and
Mm.
now starting a company, Frenos. this fire of helping people that originated back in the day, you know, from medical fields to now working with critical infrastructure has always stuck with me.
Mhm.
And I feel that this is just me giving back to the community that accepted me. This is me giving back to these companies that keep the water flowing, keep electricity, you know, our lights on and such. I really found my personal calling and my personal mission in this.
Yeah, yeah, it's awesome. It's a unique story, and it's got some meaning behind it, which I think makes it even more important. And whilst you were explaining it, it was kind of making me think about, yeah, about the kind of entry level security landscape at the moment. And I mean, we've obviously got our first step initiative where we're trying to do our bit to help, but like there's so many highly capable, in some instances highly educated, and in some instances highly qualified through like CompTIA certifications and such. But actually getting that job is so hard. And like you're one of those prime examples of where you weren't even looking for it. But just by putting yourself out there and asking the right questions, it just happened. And I think it's so important for these entry level or aspiring entry level people to just find that mentor. And it sounds like you didn't even seek that person out, so you were quite fortunate that it did literally
Yeah,
just happen. But like, what advice would you give to an entry level aspiring security person in today's climate that is really struggling but really motivated to get into the space?
my advice is always say yes. I know, like now a founder, I have to say no a lot more because I have to protect my time, protect my energy. But when you're young, hungry, and motivated, say yes to everything you can, right? Networking events, talking to people, grabbing coffee. Like, you never know who you're going to learn something from, and you never know what their journey is. That's something that I learned quite frankly early in my career, but also going to conferences and talking to people at conferences. Just say yes. Like, you don't know what they do. Learn about the person, be interested, right? Just because somebody's title or their current career isn't exactly what you want to do, you can learn anything from someone. So just say yes, put yourself in the position so that when the right opportunity comes, you're there.
Yeah, yeah, love it. Well, hopefully you can, as you grow, you're able to give some of those aspiring people an opportunity at your own company now as well. But so what's the plan then? Because we're currently sitting here, what is it? Last day of October, sorry, second to last day in October, 2024. You're in the process of raising your seed round.
Correct.
12, 14 people at the moment. Like what do you anticipate the next 12 months and beyond looking like for you guys?
Well, short-term goal is obviously finish fundraising for our seed round. 12 months, to be honest, is really more of what we're doing already. Just putting a little bit more fuel in the fire. Uh, Continue building something that people want, continue networking, talking with people, ensuring that we're solving a problem. And quite frankly, the team's not going to grow that much larger. Thankfully, with now tools like Cursor AI that helps
Mhm.
assist with coding and whatnot, we don't need a team of like 30 engineers to do what we do, right? So we don't have to focus on building the team in that aspect. We really just want to bring together a group of people that are hungry, willing to do what it takes to get the job done, and they have passion, right? We can teach anybody cybersecurity. I can teach anybody to code, but it's really that motivation that we need to see in the team for us to achieve what we want to achieve.
Yeah. What do you reckon the challenges will be? What hurdles do you anticipate
I think the
happening?
biggest hurdle that we're going to see is the advancement of AI, just in general, generative AI, that we have to ensure at Frenos we're staying on bleeding edge,
Mm,
because without that, we're going to become laggards. And that's not something we want to do. We're already pretty much building a category within OT cybersecurity, we think. And to ensure that we don't fall behind, we have to keep pushing the envelope. I mean, internally, we have research projects and research papers that we're writing to say, does this make sense from an AI perspective? Does XYZ make sense from a platform perspective? And as we continue to ask the question why, right? How doesn't matter. Why matters. Thankfully, I worked at AWS, Amazon, where they have the 5 whys. Why are we doing this? And we keep just breaking it down. And that's kind of how we've taken our culture from like the aspects of some of these large corporations that run on two pizza teams. Why are we doing this? Does it make sense? We can get to the how later. And that's how we're going to progress. We're going to progress being innovators in this industry.
yeah, awesome. Well, I'm, as you know, invested and stoked in seeing it all happen. And yeah, you're onto something. You've even outside the founding team, you've got the advisors that are going to help point you in the right direction to avoid the pitfalls that they did achieving what they have. So
Right.
hopefully it's that next OT security unicorn for Frenos.
Hey, we'll see. We'll see. What do they say? Pessimistically optimistic, right?
Yeah,
We have expectations for ourselves. We're going to achieve those expectations, but we know it's going to be a long, hard road to get there.
absolutely. Yeah. Well, we'll do a rerun in a couple of years once you're at a completely different stage, and we'll reflect back on some of the stuff you thought of and we talked about on this. And I'm sure lots of it will have come true, lots of it will have been forgotten about, and
Yep. Yeah, we can do our if you're familiar with like Robot Chicken, where they like watch the no. Oh man, this used to be so big when I was younger. They would watch clips or shows and they would make commentary over on top of it. It's like a commentary of like director's cuts and stuff like that. We can do that our next run. We'll just play this. You'd be like, what were you thinking? And I'd be like, I don't know what I was thinking.
I'd say there'd be a few more grey hairs, but we've already spoken about how you decided to shave it all off anyway. So hopefully
Shave it all off.
that won't be a problem. But no, Harry, thank you so much for coming on and enjoyed the chat. And yeah, just really stoked to see how it all pans out for you guys.
Thank you. Pleasure being here again. Thanks.
Thank you for listening. If you've enjoyed today's show, please like and share with your friends and colleagues, as this is really important for the show's reach. If you'd like to be our next guest or are interested in Aspiron Search's staffing solutions, please get in touch directly with me or reach out to us via our website www.aspironsearch.com.